Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Class 10 English, Unit 17, The Inheritors. In the previous class, we completed exercise A, page number 68. Today, we will continue from exercise B, page number 68. In this exercise, you have to learn the meanings and spellings of the following words from the lesson and use 10 of them in sentences of your own. As you can see, here is a list of words from the text. What you have to do is you have to learn the spellings of these words, look for their meanings in the dictionary, and then use any 10 of the words in your sentences. You have to do this exercise in your English notebook. Now, exercise C. Fill in the blanks in the following sentences by choosing the words from the list given below. Now, as you can see again, here is a list of words from the text, from the lesson, and here are a few sentences which are incomplete, and you have to complete them by using the correct word in the correct sentence. Even the sentences have been taken from the lesson. So, for completing these sentences, you have to read the lesson and you have to write the correct word in each blank in each sentence. For example, in the first one, their mother had died in their dash. Their mother had died in their childhood. This was mentioned in the chapter. Number 2, his younger brother Muazzam was dash and dash. As mentioned in the unit, his younger brother Muazzam was simple and trusting. So just like this, you have to complete the rest of the sentences in your book. Now, exercise D, part A. In the first part of this exercise, you have to make nouns from the following verbs and use them in sentences of your own. So, here is a list of verbs taken from the lesson: die, advise, divide, suggest, agree, and feed. Now, you have to change all of these verbs into their noun forms. For example, die. Die is an action. But when die becomes a thing, it becomes death. So just like that, advice is an action, advise, advice is an action, but when it becomes a thing, it becomes advice, advice. Just like that, divide is the action, whereas division is the noun, it's the thing. Suggest, suggestion, agree, agreement, feed, food. Now, as we have changed all of the verbs into their noun forms, now you have to make sentences from these nouns. Part B of this exercise, it's almost like the previous one, but the only difference is that in this exercise you have to make nouns from the following adjectives, whereas in the previous one you were supposed to make nouns from the given verbs. So adjectives are those words that are used to describe the quality and quantity of a noun. For example, clever is an adjective, but when it becomes a thing, it becomes cleverness. Just like that, clear is an adjective, it is used to describe something, but when it becomes a thing, it becomes a noun, it's changed into clarity. Just like that, greedy, greed, generous, generosity, stupid, stupidity, innocent, innocence, simple, simplicity, young, youth. Part C of this exercise, exercise D, complete the following sentences by using the proper tense of the verb or verbs placed in brackets against each sentence. So in this exercise, here are some sentences that are incomplete, and to complete them, here is a bracket in which a list of words is given, but you have to decide which form of the verb is to be used in each sentence. For example, number 1, Azam dash that somebody dash his younger brother. So this sentence has two parts. You have to decide which part is the older one and which part is the newer one, means which action was done later and which action was done earlier. So for the actions that were done earlier or that were done before another action, for them we use past perfect tense. And for the actions that were done in the past but after another action, for them we use Past indefinite tense. So Azam guessed that somebody had advised his younger brother. As you can see in the first part of the sentence, in the first blank, I have used simply the second form. Means I have used the past indefinite tense. Why? Because Azam guessed this is the later scenario, means he guessed it later, but Mozam was advised earlier by someone. So the action that is the earlier one, the previous one, for that we will use had as a helping verb and then the third form, not the second form, because that is past perfect tense. So Azim guessed that somebody had advised his younger brother. Now number 2, my guests dash before I dash. Now in this sentence, the guests dash, they had returned before I came. As the word before is mentioned, it already shows that the action that the guests returned, this is the previous one before. It indicates that the first part of the sentence is past perfect, so that is why we have used had as the helping verb and then the third form, my guests had returned, and then what happened later, before I came. So this is the newer action, whereas guests returning to their homes, that was the earlier or the previous action. Just like this, you have to complete the rest of the sentences. When he dashed out of the cinema house, the rain dash. So you have to decide which action is the earlier one, which action is the later one, and for the earlier one just use the past perfect tense, and for the later one just use past indefinite tense. Exercise D, part D. Fill in the blanks with suitable prepositions. For example, number 1, he is fond dash reading books. He is fond of reading books, because fond of what? That thing is mentioned, that he is fond of which particular thing, but the preposition was missing. So we will use the preposition of. Number 2, Najma is not interested dash games. So now you have to use the correct preposition for number 2. Najma is not interested in games. Just like that. Number 3, Ajmal is good dash mathematics. So he is good on mathematics, by mathematics, with mathematics, at mathematics. You have to decide which one suits the best. Complete the rest of the sentences. Now the last exercise is exercise E. Change into passive voice. Passive voice is that formation of sentence in which the object is at the start whereas the subject is at the last. Means the name of the doer of the action, the one of performing the action, that is mentioned in the last of the sentence, in the end of the sentence. For example, number 1, the old man advised Mozam. Who advised? The old man. He is the doer of the action, he is the subject, whereas advised is the action and object is Mozam. Who was advised? Mozam was advised, right? So Mozam is the object, but when changing this sentence into passive, you have to write the object first. So Mozam will come at the start of the sentence, then as the sentence was in the past, advised, that is the second form, it indicates that the sentence was in the past. So when the sentence is in the past and you're changing it into passive, in passive it is necessary to write the helping verb, whereas in active form it's not always necessary to write the helping verb. It depends on the sentence structure. So in passive, as we are supposed to write the helping verb for each sentence according to its tense. As this is in past, so for past we use was or were according to the subject. If subject is singular, we use was. If subject is plural, we use were. So as Mozam is one, Mozam is singular, so with Mozam we will use was as the helping verb, and then the third form of the verb advised. And then before writing the name of the subject, we have to use the preposition by. Mozam was advised by the old man. Now following the same sentence structure, you have to change the next sentence into passive voice. First you have to write the subject in the sentence, verb, then object, and lastly you have to change it into passive. Mozam fed and looked after the cow. In this sentence here are two verbs, fed and looked, and both of them are in past. So it means this sentence is also in the past. So when you change it into passive, write the object and then write down the helping verb for the object depending on the object whether it is singular or plural, and then write both of these verbs, fed and looked, in their third form, then by, and then the subject who did the work. Your homework for today is to complete all the exercises in your book and notebook. I will see you in the next class. Until then, take care and Allah Hafiz.